Taking out the trash. Just how much junk has been swept away for the Clean San Diego campaign and the new safeguards in place when cleaning up homeless camps in San Diego.
I smoke a little marijuana or ingest a little marijuana because there's different ways to ingest it now, and that goes away. Do you know how many pills it used to take to do that?
A closer look at the nation's opioid crisis, why cannabis could be an alternative, and the challenges with studying it for pain relief.
There's a big question here, is where does the County Board of Supervisors in San Diego stand?
Picking a side, county leaders are about to weigh in on the legal fight against California's sanctuary state law. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. The Cajon Valley School Board is facing a protest tonight over the way it handled a student walkout against gun violence. Gun control advocates are upset some students got detention and an intern who supported them was let go. KPBS education reporter Megan Burks is live in El Cajon where the school board meeting is underway. Megan.
That's right. The meeting is about to get underway here in about a half hour, and we're expecting dozens of members of the San Diegans for gun violence protection. Some of them are already arriving now, and they say they have to speak out about how they believe the district mishandled the walkout. Let's hear from one of them.
The school district has criticized her for taking a political stance by advocating with the students in their effort to do something about gun violence in America. We agree with Margaret that this is not a political issue, it's a health and safety issue. And so
And that's John White speaking about the intern who was let go after this incident. Now, we spoke with the school district earlier today, and they said that intern was let go for multiple reasons, not just for speaking to the press about the walkout. They also said that the students who were on detention had other opportunities, school-sanctioned opportunities to express their feelings. Now, the members of this group are also riled up today from a statement from trustee Jim Miller. He's a member of the San Diego County Gun Owners PAC in addition to being on the board here at Cajon Valley. And the San Diegans for Gun Violence Protection are asking all local school boards to pass resolutions in support of federal gun legislation. He wrote back as a private citizen saying that it is in poor taste for them to be using the Parkland shooting to advance their legislative agenda. In response, they say it's really the school district and the school board's obligation to take a stance on this issue. They say that they're sending a signal that they don't care about student safety and rather that they care about gun rights. Jim Miller says that that's not true.
Our district is exceptionally caring about students and their safety, and instead of passing resolutions that frankly are a waste of everybody's time because they're meaningless in my personal opinion, we're taking active, actual steps to investigate and review the security of each of our campuses.
Now, Superintendent David Miyashiro is expected to come here tonight. He's actually flying from a conference in Canada to respond to some of these concerns, and we'll report tomorrow on how that goes. Reporting from El Cajon, Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Thanks, Megan. Lawmakers in Sacramento are advancing a package of bills to deal with the state's opioid crisis. Nearly a dozen bills were moved out of committee today. The proposals would tighten regulations on prescriptions and boost training for doctors. California would also link the state's prescription drug monitoring system with those in other states. Some recent research from UC San Diego finds cannabis can be useful in treating chronic pain and weaning people off of opioids. But doctors are running into barriers when it comes to advancing that research. KPBS reporter Jade Hyman has more.
When the Cedar fire broke out and encircled Rudy Reyes's home, he doused himself with water and made an impossible decision.
My house was now on fire, couldn't stay in there. So I come out and basically made the decision to run through the fire line. I covered my face with my hands. lost his finger, that ear, because the fire was coming from that angle.
Rudy ran through the flames and survived. The water combined with heat from the fire created steam so intense it peeled off 75% of his skin. His nerve so badly damaged his sense of touch immediately turned cold. He was found disoriented and in shock along the road hours later. Doctors had to put him in an induced coma for 2 months, and the next year of his life was spent in a hospital bed at UC San Diego Medical Center.
During that time, I was having complications with the medications, and the fact that some of these medications, being opiate-based, were overdosing me. I was slowly dying from having this in me so long.
So doctors decided to try medical cannabis. As they slowly introduced it to his body, he says his blood pressure went down, his muscles relaxed, and there was no need for morphine.
And then ask them if they just want to come pick it up.
Dr. Mark Wallace is with UC San Diego's Center for Medical Cannabis Research. He's been studying cannabis and its use for chronic pain for nearly 2 decades. He says his studies reveal cannabis is a safer and more effective treatment for pain than opioids.
It's this inverted U with the THC and pain. As the THC levels go up in the blood, pain will go down until the point where it actually starts going in the opposite direction. As the blood levels go up, pain will actually start worsening. And so there is this therapeutic window.
A therapeutic window where just the right amount of cannabis treats pain and replaces opioids for about 70% of his patients.
The bottom line is I prefer to visit medical cannabis before we resort to an opioid. I think cannabis is much more conservative. I think it's lower risk. There's never been a reported death from medical cannabis or cannabis. Look at all the deaths annually from opioid use.
Reyes says while he survived the fire, research like this is keeping him alive. Cannabis has made living with burns bearable.
75% of my outside skin is now missing that nerve that tells me pain. So in order to have any sensation, anything like that, it's always itchy. It's always crawly. It's always, and I could itch to the point of bloody, it won't make any difference. I smoke a little marijuana or ingest a little marijuana because there's different ways to ingest it now, and that goes away. Do you know how many pills it used to take to do that? A plethora of pills to do what one little plant could do.
So instead of swallowing pain pills, he smokes marijuana, consumes edibles,
and this stuff is aloe vera based,
and soothes his skin with cannabis creams while spending small amounts of time under the sun.
This is my chocolate mint
in his garden.
I've expanded and learned more to the point where I'm taking care of other herbs beyond it.
Even though his studies reveal benefits to medical cannabis, Dr. Wallace says more research is necessary to pinpoint dosing. But the research has been almost impossible since marijuana is still a Schedule I controlled substance, right alongside drugs like heroin, LSD, and bath salts. The DEA has it listed as a drug with no medical use. The National Institute on Drug Abuse says 9% of people using marijuana become dependent. The organization also says several studies link its use to an increased risk for psychiatric disorders. But again, more studies are needed to actually know how.
Because it's federally illegal, it makes it extremely difficult to do research. And the reason is because since it's Scheduled I, the only source for it is the government, NIH. And that source of medical cannabis does not represent real world.
So the push continues from both patients and researchers to make cannabis more accessible, especially to those living with chronic pain facing an opioid addiction.
I'm in California, and immediately UCSD gave me an option out. Not everybody got that. Not everybody got that like I did. I'm one of the blessed ones.
Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
San Diego City Council President Myrtle Cole has delayed discussion of an affordable housing bond proposal for the November ballot. The council's Rules Committee was initially slated to discuss the bond at its meeting on Wednesday. The bond would raise $900 million for low-income housing construction and permanent supportive housing for the homeless. Last week, Cole's office removed the item from the committee agenda. That means the council and members of the public will have less time to craft the specifics, including how to administer the funds. The measure's chief proponent is Steve Russell, head of the nonprofit San Diego Housing Federation.
We feel that there's a lot of questions about the measure that need to be answered, and we do need the time to do that because the clock is ticking against us and the deadlines for putting this on the ballot.
A byproduct of San Diego's homeless problem is trash that piles up in areas where people congregate. As Susan Murphy reports, the city is working on a cleanup effort that just reached a big milestone.
City workers in hazmat suits and armed with rakes and trash bags have spent the past 7 months clearing away trash and debris from riverbeds, streets, and alleyways. Mario Sierra, director of the city's Environmental Services Department, is overseeing the Clean San Diego initiative.
We are well over 500 tons of waste that has been removed throughout the city of San Diego since September of 2017.
Collected waste includes 1,200 shopping carts and 3,100 mattresses and box springs.
So the waste abatements that we perform tend to be associated with homeless encampments. So this is waste that's typically left behind as we conduct our waste abatements.
Homeless people have long been drawn to the 52-mile-long river's edge for its seclusion, living in makeshift encampments that overflow with trash.
We have actually removed approximately 98 tons of waste from the San Diego River.
Hundreds of other homeless had set up tents on sidewalks in the East Village or hunkered down in parks and canyons. Sierra says cleanups have always taken place, but the squalid living is no longer tolerated. The city's aggressive crackdown has made a big difference in trash collection.
If you were to compare us where we were, let's say, a year ago, we're actually collecting less amount of waste in some of the hot spots that used to be around the city of San Diego.
He says the city has also adopted safeguards following an incident in December when crews accidentally scooped a homeless person into a garbage truck. A supervisor now oversees every abatement.
To keep track of who's participating, what items are being collected, which ones are being disposed of.
The next phase of the cleanup effort involves asking 33 property owners who live along the river to do their part to clear trash and debris. Together, they own a third of the riverbed. The city is offering one-time cleanup assistance. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Another high-ranking member of the Trump administration has resigned. Tom Bosser was the president's Homeland Security advisor. His resignation comes just one day after former UN Ambassador John Bolton took over as National Security Advisor. Bosser was the point person in the White House for issues such as cyber threats and last year's hurricane response. On Capitol Hill today, all eyes were on Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg for the first of 2 days of congressional testimony. Before Zuckerberg's arrival, those critical of the company's handling of fake accounts and user data organized a display on the Capitol lawn. They say Facebook hasn't done enough to rein in fake accounts that spread inaccurate news.
He talks about connecting people around the world, and right now his creation is dividing people, and it is absolutely his moment to come out and show the world that he's going to take sweeping reforms to fix Facebook.
Zuckerberg took questions from a Senate committee in the first of 2 days of testimony. Here's some of his exchange with senators on user privacy, Russian meddling, and the company's plan moving forward.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. And it was my mistake, and I'm sorry. I started Facebook, I run it, and I'm responsible for what happens here. To make sure no other app developers out there are misusing data, we're now investigating every single app that had access to a large amount of information in the past. And if we find that someone improperly used data, we're going to ban them from Facebook and tell everyone affected.
Mr. Zuckerberg, would you be comfortable sharing with us the name of the hotel you stayed in last night?
No.
If you've messaged anybody this week, would you share with us the names of the people you've messaged?
Senator, no, I would probably not choose to do that publicly here.
I think that may be what this is all about.
I have more confidence that we're going to get this right because since the 2016 election, there have been several important elections around the world where we've had a better record. There's the French presidential election, there's the German election, there was the U.S. Senate Alabama special election last year. The nature of these attacks, though, is that there are people in Russia whose job it is to try to exploit our systems and other internet systems and other systems as well. So this is an arms race. Right? I mean, they're going to keep on getting better at this, and we need to invest in keeping on getting better at this too, which is why one of the things I mentioned before is we're going to have more than 20,000 people by the end of this year working on security and content review across the company.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Mark Zuckerberg in the hot seat. The Facebook CEO faces U.S. senators amid growing questions over users' privacy. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Still no word from Governor Jerry Brown on whether California will use National Guard members to support immigration enforcement at the border. 3 other border states, all led by Republican governors, are committing a combined 1,600 National Guard members. This week, Mexico's Senate passed a resolution calling for Mexico to end cooperation with the U.S. on illegal immigration and drug trafficking in response to President Trump's move. The Border Patrol is spending $73 million on a border wall project in New Mexico. The new barrier will go up west of El Paso. Border Patrol leaders say it's a trouble spot for illegal immigration and smuggling. Officials say it will be a wall similar to prototypes built in San Diego.
Well, we took a look at the prototypes from San Diego, but we're following, they're very similar. The wall that we're using in Annapolis, and y'all can go take a look at that, is the same wall that's going to be here. It works for us, and it's what we're going to put out here for the next 20 miles.
The Border Patrol says the project in New Mexico will take about a year to complete. Federal dollars for the project are designated for barrier replacement. The full border wall project has yet to receive funding. Next week, San Diego County supervisors will consider whether or not to support the Trump administration's lawsuit against California's so-called sanctuary state law. Some people are urging supervisors not to take up the issue. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
Are not used to separate families.
Supporters of SB 54 gathered outside the county building protesting next week's closed session supervisor meeting.
To make a decision with this magnitude and far-reaching impacts in secret and without listening to the people of San Diego is a total lack of transparency that is an affront to our values.
A number of community advocacy groups, including the local ACLU, are urging the supervisors not to support the lawsuit against California.
Are you standing up for California? Stand up for California.
The ACLU of San Diego and Imperial counties says the supervisors are not representing the entire county.
There's a big question here is where does the County Board of Supervisors in San Diego stand? Do they stand with California? I mean, these are California policies that were not easy to pass.
Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Kristen Gaspar, was recently on Fox News discussing the upcoming meeting.
Well, this is a politically supercharged issue, as you might imagine. We're talking about hundreds of emails pouring in from all sides. But let us not forget, let's take the emotion out of this. We're talking about following the constitutional laws of our land.
Supervisor Diane Jacob told Fox News she expects the board to support the lawsuit.
Well, I am cautiously optimistic that we'll have at least 3 votes out of the 5, and that's all it takes.
The city of Escondido recently took up the issue in open session, supporting the lawsuit by a 4-to-1 vote.
I urge the San Diego County and the 18 cities to join the fight and support the Department of Justice lawsuit against the state of California.
In a statement to KPBS, Gaspar says next week's discussion will be about public safety. She says this issue was already decided back in 2012, and Gaspar has advised county lawyers to be ready to discuss all options in regard to the sanctuary lawsuit. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A vote today by a major water district in LA will likely save money for water customers in San Diego. LA's Metropolitan Water District voted to take on $11 billion worth of costs for the Sacramento Delta water tunnels. The vote keeps the project on track for 2 tunnels instead of 1. The cheaper one-tunnel approach would have reduced the number of financial partners and passed along costs to local water districts. The San Diego City Council today is expected to give its final approval to Phase 1 of a major water recycling program. Phase 1 of the Pure Water program is expected to provide 30 million gallons of drinking water a day. The council is voting to clarify the program's environmental impact report. It's also voting to permit upgraded pumping stations and purification plants and new water pipelines. Those projects are expected to be complete by 2021. The final vote is for the city to get 1/3 of its drinking water from recycled water by 2035. It's been hotter than normal, but San Diego will get some relief over the next couple of days. Erin Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
It was another beautiful day here today in San Diego County. Plenty of sunshine and temperatures. They are on the warm side. Tonight, 59 degrees. A little bit of fog around. If you wake up early in the morning, you might see some of that. Oceanside tonight at 53, Ramona 45, and Borrego Springs 66. And to the north of us, we're seeing some rain. It is going to push to the south, but we unfortunately are not going to see very much as far as rain, if any at all, across San Diego County. But what you will notice as this front dips is temperatures are going to be dropping, not to cold, but to where we should be for this time of year, because right now it is a little bit warm. We have some gusty winds, especially in the passes. If you're traveling in a high-profile vehicle like a truck, well, you are certainly going to feel those gusts on the highway, so be careful. Poway, 77 degrees tomorrow. San Diego at 69. Chula Vista, 68. And in the deserts, yikes, it's going to be warm. 96, nice and sunny for everyone. So here we are along the coast the next couple of days. It's going to be getting a bit cooler. By Thursday, we could see a brief shower in spots, but really most people are not going to see any kind of wet weather. Temperatures do drop, though, to 67. And on Friday, we rebound to 73 and nice and sunny, 76 on Saturday. In the interior areas, again, by Thursday, not as warm, 68 degrees, but we're about 10 degrees warmer by Friday. So really short-lived. By the weekend, we're in the 80s. In the mountains, we drop down to 53. That's going to be a chilly day on Thursday. Our lows in the 30s. And then the rest of the week, we slowly warm up to the 60s. And in the deserts, well, it's going to drop down to 80. That's going to be relief here in the deserts. And it's going to hang out in the 80s for the rest of the week. And again, nice and sunny for everyone. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
The dockless bikes that have been controversial in some San Diego neighborhoods were welcome today at San Diego State. The university and bike rental provider, OFO, announced a partnership today. 100 dockless bikes will be available on campus. It's part of the school's plan to reduce its carbon footprint.
Last year, we signed our climate action plan, which committed us to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 as a campus. So we're looking, knowing that 40% of our emissions are related to commuting, we've been looking at different options to try and get people out of their cars. And one of the options we wanted to look at was bike share.
The bike company is offering a free month of bike rides to about 35,000 San Diego State students and staff. It's spring break season, and technology is helping retailers and law enforcement spot fake IDs. AP reporter Marina Hutchinson has the story.
Oh, margarita that melted, because I don't drink like that.
Spring break brings a spike in underage drinking and driving.
If I was underage, then I would go up to somebody like, can you buy me a drink? I'm of age, but I left my ID or something.
But teens, beware. There is a new app that may expose your fake ID.
We have over 32 enforcement agencies using this technology now.
We had a 40% increase in the number of fake IDs that we seized from young people. So it really helped my agents. I mean, it was a game changer.
Sophisticated fake IDs are adding to the problem of drunk driving accidents in spring break destinations like Florida. The maker of the app, IntelliCheck, says hundreds of retailers across the United States are using its technology.
We had a month where we grabbed 100 fake IDs in 1 month.
Most stores have systems that scan IDs, but they're only checking that the barcode matches what is on the front. They are not authenticating those IDs. Besides the information in front of the ID, the barcode also contains encrypted security data that can be verified to confirm its authenticity. Experts say if an app is receiving information lawfully, there likely are not concerns about infringing on individual rights.
All they're doing is taking that information that the user has already provided to the motor vehicles department or to a government entity, and then just verifying that that user is actually the user. I don't see any sort of intrusion on one's civil liberties.
Authorities hope technology will help them in the fight to decrease the numbers of underage teens drinking.
Most college kids do not social drink like adults. They drink to get intoxicated. So if we can stop a few of those from drinking and becoming intoxicated, we're saving lives, no doubt.
Marina Hutchinson, The Associated Press.
Now here's a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, just how much information is too much information? A new warning on tax phone scams. And on Midday Edition, a conversation on immigration and journalism. And the boy who traveled thousands of miles to find his mother. We talked to the author of Enrique's Journey. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.